friends, welcome on in to our first ever behind the build video. My goal with this type of video is to show you guys a little bit of how things work within the different builds that we do, and we are going to be doing that by letting you guys ask the questions so that I can explain all the different things that you guys are curious about. So we're going to continue to keep trying this. This time around we just use Instagram as our platform to inspire the questions, but we may take questions from YouTube and Twitter and all the other places that we post our stuff. So feel free to ask questions wherever you like about any future builds, and hopefully we can continue to work on these videos for you guys. So let's dive on in and get started. Today we're going to be looking at our Link's Awakening build, Koholint Island. It's an awesome looking game. I haven't had a chance to play, but I did have a lot of fun bringing this micro scale video game map build to life. It is the 6th video game in our series, and I do want to go back and do some of the other ones, so we might do that too. But I'm excited to dive in, and we're going to answer 5 different questions that we got on our Instagram stories. So let's just get started and dive on in. So the first question is from our friend Shan, and they asked, how did you create and place the clouds? This was definitely something a lot of people were really curious about when we first started working on this build. And I kind of had known right away what I'd wanted to do with them because the clouds had a very, puffball shape. And the most appropriate piece for that is actually ice cream. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this little ice cream piece. I'm going to bring it up to the camera here so you can see it a little bit better. There's like 3 little circles on it, or 4 little circles on it. And what's really cool about this piece is if you actually stack multiple of them together at the right angle, they actually create quite a bit of friction, allowing us to make this super duper cool pattern with them. They're very commonly used for like smokestacks from like trains and stuff like that. So they work well for a lot of different things. And I of course thought it was fitting to use it for this. Another question that I got a lot was how did I attach them? So I'm gonna show you guys that very quickly here. I'm gonna bring up the build to the camera because that's a little bit easier. What we did is we actually have a tap piece, as they're known. They did recently start coming out in reddish brown. And then we used a white droid arm. They're one of the more Bionicle style ones, I want to say, because I think these first came out when Bionicle was doing that mini line. And so there's a bar that goes through some 1x1 studs with round pieces, and then it gets attached to that bar and all gets attached there. And actually, let me just do a quick build. We might fast forward through this. And that, my friends, is the assembly. Sometimes it's hard to get the camera to focus. That is the assembly that we used to attach the clouds. So the different little ice cream pieces went on the ends, and then we just slowly and carefully position those in place. So that's our first question. Thank you so much, Shan, for asking that. Our next one comes from our friend Bunny, who is someone who watches the stream as well. Thanks so much for all supporting, Bunny. How did we do studs on the side construction for the volcano? An excellent question. So to get this started, I'm actually going to remove the clouds. So we're just going to carefully pop this off. Hopefully I can leave it, and then we can just reattach it later. There are 2 different locations though on the volcano where we actually did some sideways building. So rather than just entirely building vertically, you can see there's a couple studs facing outwards instead of upwards. And I thought it'd be a nice way to kind of break up the texture, mix things up a little bit. So let's dive in and take a look at how we do this. First, we're gonna just pull off the egg right on the top. So you can see that's just attached very simply like that. And then if I start pulling up some of the pieces here, we're gonna have a very disassembled build by the end of this, guys. So don't be alarmed. This is all part of the plan. And then I think if I grab here, you can actually see that I have an empty section. On the inside I used some yellow. I don't know, it was just a color I happen to have handy. And then we used a snot brick, one of the 1x2x5 plate high snot bricks that are very commonly used in brickheads, to allow us to attach some stuff on the side. There's some tiles right underneath that as well, so that these can rest flat against it. And that's just one little section that allows us to do some of that. And then we just made sure we, put some brown behind where these pieces were going to be covered up. So we can just very easily reattach all of that. Easy peasy. Oops, that's the wrong side. This one's got to go here. There we go. And then there's a big section right here that has done sideways as well. Let's see what's the best way to pull this off. I think we'll just slowly start to yank stuff out. There we go. Cool. And let me see if I can remember. I think it was like this piece. Probably have a reference picture pulled up. Anyways, well, let me just show you guys how this was done. Pop that. Can I pop this all off at once? Here we go. So I used a 2x6 plate that is modified. I have a bunch of studs on the side. You can kind of see that. Sorry for the contrast on the camera. That's kind of how everything comes together. And then we just have this whole little assembly with a bunch of plates and some different places to connect stuff that allow us to have the whole mountain sideways. And then once again, you can see there are some tiles here that allow us to rest this on top of it. And it's always important, guys, you got to keep that Lego math in mind. So I think the tiles rest at the 5th plate in height, and then this starts from the 6th plate. So that way the bottom of this kind of lines up with the tiles and it all rests really, really, really nicely. So that's that there. So you can see I put that back. We'll reassemble the mountain later. For now, we'll just continue on with the questions that you guys had thrown at us. So let's see what is next. Best Lego Creations Worldwide asked, how are the palm trees built? The palm trees were done in a very similar method to actually all the other trees. So I'm glad someone asked about the trees so I can show you guys how all the trees are pretty much done. And so let me yank one out here. They're actually pretty easy to remove because they're only attached by a single stud. And one thing I'll note is that the trees are actually mostly built upside down, or have a bar, or at the very, very bottom anyways, there is a Travis brick on the inside that is facing downwards. So what we had to do is run a bar through that, and then that goes into one of the studs with a hole. And then we had to kind of dig down into the build to have a connection point for it. And you can see there are tiles here so that the basically the bottom of the tree, because I wanted it to look like trunks kind of flowing out from the bottom of the tree, can rest on the tiles instead of colliding with studs. But let's just go ahead and disassemble this whole tree. So if I take off the little bottom parts here, this is kind of the trunk. So we had 4 1x2 plates with the cheese slope on them. And it sloped down nicely, and that's all on a Travis brick there, right? And then how we did the top part is actually pretty interesting. It took me a while to figure this one out, but we actually used brackets to do that. 1x2 upside down brackets. So you can actually see these are brackets here, the little green bits. And then we put on some curved slopes. We also used a round 1x1 plate underneath one of them at a slightly higher height. That way we can offset them at different angles and give it a little bit more of a natural look. And then as for the core of the tree, this is what it looks like. So 2 Travis bricks. They're spaced out appropriately so that all the pieces kind of fit together nicely. And then we were using a kind of like a stock piece with some yellow to kind of create the fun flowered top of the tree. And that is how those trees come together. So it's pretty easy to put that back together reasonably quickly. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably should have done the top part first, but whatever. And we do something like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Boom. And the whole tree is nicely back together. We put some nougat-ish pieces to look like little coconuts on there in some different shapes. And then again, because we built into the base plate a little bit, or into the base of the grass, we can do this. I just gotta figure out, I know it was rotated in one particular way, and that's how it is, and it gets attached. Boom. A nice little tree setup there. All right, our next question was, what's the trick with the varying watercolors? That comes from Mr. Kevin Hinkle. Thanks, Kevin, for always supporting. And Kevin had actually kind of guessed, was it different color tiles or different color plates? And it's actually a little bit of both. So you can see at the very corners here, we actually used trans blue 1x2 plates. So those are a little bit darker. You can see when I put them out on the table, they're pretty dark, as well as trans light blue tiles. So when you see them against the white, you can see there's a very big difference. So we did a little bit of the trans dark blue at the corners, and then it's mostly trans light blue around. And then there is a smaller inner edge just around the island, basically, of trans clear. So very, very clear pieces. But underneath all this is a bunch of different colors of blue. So there's actually 3 different shades that we use to accomplish this. So I'm going to tear some of this up so you guys can see underneath. All right, I think that's enough to show you guys. So we've got regular blue, we've got dark azure, and we've got medium azure. So by having all 3 of those colors there underneath the trans light blue, as well as a little bit of the trans clear, you get a nice transition in the water. Honestly, with the lights, it looks so nice being all shiny and stuff like that, but it really does give off such an awesome effect for this whole thing. And that is the water. Our last question for today is going to be from our friend Stormythos. Stormy asked, how do you determine a scale for microbuilds such as this? An excellent question. Thank you so much, Stormy. I often let different features of the build define what the scale is going to be, but I also very much keep in mind, especially because for this series, I always do them on 32 by 32 base plates. I always keep in mind what size is it going to take for me to get a good amount of detail into the build, while not compromising its recognizability. So in this case, I wanted to find a nice balance between the size of the island and being able to showcase some of the transition in the water. If we had made the island a little bit bigger, we might have been able to have some more fun with some of the details. It might have been a little less challenging to get them going. But I wanted to make sure we did have a good amount of water around so you could really get that nice transition into the island. And then honestly, I had again known almost right away how I wanted to do the clouds. So the size of the ice cream piece had actually played a little bit of a part in determining what the size of the volcano was going to be, and then that kind of translated to the rest of the island. So I had a pretty good idea right away that I wanted it to be a little bit on the smaller side that you might have thought for the island, based on some of the pieces that I want to use and some of the things that I wanted to accomplish with this build. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember, guys, we do all of these builds live on Twitch. What better way to find out how to do this stuff than by being there live and being able to ask me these questions? If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking the video, commenting, and let me know what else you guys would like to see. And then, of course, please hit that sub button so we can keep growing our channel. Otherwise, guys, just thank you so much. We will see you next time. Have a good one, and happy building.